Hey everyone, I am here today to do a video about shaping with your mapping string for tint after lamination. Okay, so this is my lovely model, and as you can see, she's been with me for a while. And so she's going to we're gonna pretend like she's my client for this service. So the first thing we do, we take our mapping string and we're going to measure her center point between her eyes. So we're gonna go right here, oops, and make one solid, one solid line going up as even as we can. On a real human, it should be easier. So if that's our center point, that's about the center point right here, then we need to find where the eyebrows start. Since you already have your client's hair laminated, you're gonna just wanna start where the eyebrows start. So we're just gonna say that they start right about here. Okay, so I just drew some brows on her to kind of show you guys a better way of seeing this technique up close. Zoom in a little bit. If this is our laminated client, we're going to want to tint them perhaps at the end of the service. So what we're going to do is use our mapping string. Like I said, we're going to do the first center point in between the eyes as close as we can get it. Then we're going to find where the hair starts, do our second and third line here, and then go across the bottom of where the hair ends in the front and just go right back and forth, kind of push hard and make the line back and forth. Now, what we want to do is a really crisp line at the bottom, but what we don't want is a big thick line at the top. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of girls like on the brow lamination groups online on Facebook. What they're making is that they're just tinting like the whole eyebrow. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the meme that says that your eyebrow shouldn't look like KFC potato wedges. It applies. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take our mapping string, we're gonna angle it wherever the brows are angled. Okay, so sometimes brows are way up here, sometimes they're low. With lamination, we're usually getting all the brow hairs at the bottom, so it's usually like a little bit flatter. Bottom line, it's usually not as arched, if that makes sense. And the look isn't an arched look. We really want, even if she doesn't have a lot of hair at the bottom, we really want to create the look of a fuller, sharp line at the bottom. So what I'm gonna do, start at the corner, and this is where I'm gonna hit with my mapping string. I'm gonna go right at the corner of her hair and make a nice crisp line. So I always say make a crisp line at the bottom and keep it fluffy, fluff it out at the top. So we're gonna do it on both sides and try and keep the angle the same. So if I see this little triangle that I'm creating here between this point and this point, I want that to be the same thickness as I move up on this one. So that the underneath arch is even, okay? So what we're gonna do is start here and kind of measure with our eyes. How does that look? Pretty good. This one looks maybe a little bit further apart here, so I can always go in with my line. This is gonna be super quick and super easy for you guys to figure out how to tint the brows after you're done, okay? So I always do my underneath shape, and then I just come to the tail and do that, another corner, and then just, kind of round out the corner as it goes. So, I guess I gave you pencils. So if you need this line to be darker and you can't eyeball it from what the mapping string gives you, then use your brown pencil that comes in your kit, okay? Or your black pencil, whichever one it is. Okay, so we're gonna do that on the same side. And then I'm gonna use a couple of things. You can use a brush, you can use anything you want to apply the tint, whatever makes it easier for you, okay? But what comes with your kit are a couple of these tools. So I'm just going to use the tools that we provide for you guys so you can see how to do it with these. So I'm going to start with my little plastic tool. This is a great tool for separating the brow hairs out when you are laminating like this, kind of making sure that, kind of pressing on the brows to make sure that the arches, which are the ones that are going to pop down during your lamination, this is good to kind of press them back into place when you are working. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of our tint at the bottom of this, and I'm leaning over on this side, and I'm going to push the tint right up to the line that I created with my mapping string, okay? And this is going to keep it very sharp and defined at the bottom. And then you can kind of fluff it up. Now I always say fluff this tint, and don't make it too hard. So if this is the hair on your client's head, you don't want to bring the tint all the way up. You just want to kind of just kind of make it really sharp at the bottom, all the way across to the tail. Start here. So this is the first area that we remove because we want it to kind of have like an ombre effect. So I always usually will do my tint in almost more of like an angled, rounded angled way away from the center point. So you don't want this to be a hard angle. That's the other thing that I see happening that's not right, is that a lot of people are making the tint go all the way to this line and then just like boxing out those eyebrows. You really don't want to do that. So if you find that there's a little bit extra tint, and take your little tool, kind of spread it out. Press it in, because you're gonna have hair here, so pressing it in is good so it gets on the skin. If you find that anything is going down into the lid, we really want to clean that up immediately. You don't want to have any trouble with trying to remove that tint later. You're going to want to clean up your line immediately. So what you do is just take your Q-tip, which you should have at your station anyway, and just sort of clean that up all the way down. So if you want, you can use this tool, boop, and try it on this side. Just do what you think works best. So you can sort of dab, tap into that line. And that's our strongest, darkest point. We don't want anything in this brow to be super saturated except for like the line of the brow at the bottom and the tail. So there you go, you can do it like that. Or if you have a brush and you prefer a brush, I have a brush here that I use sometimes. And what I would do is just get a little bit of tint on there and kind of keep it flat and work it in this way. Even hold it and push it towards the line. Push, push, push. So that way it's not, you know, it's not crossing the line. And so then you're going to want to fluff, 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 fluff this way. You're going to have to see, you're going to have to play around with it and see what tools you like best for doing your laminations. Press that in. Press, 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 press. And just to the tail hairs where the hair kind of ends right there, and then just sort of fluff it out, like I said. If it feels like too chunky, then remove it. So you just want to go whoop, just remove it a little bit. Make sure that if something like that happens, that you're always cleaning. So if this is the hair, that's kind of the ideal application. You don't want it to be too full. You really want the natural hair to be like the star of the show, not the tint. And you really want the lamination to be visible. So we're gonna try and stain the line to give it that laminated look that is like the Instagram look. But we definitely don't want to make the KFC wedge, okay? Hope that makes sense, guys. And if you have any questions about this portion, just let me know. And, you know, keep it clean. So with any form of tint, so if you're using any form of tint to do the brows after lamination, just always kind of start in the front and then remove the front first. So if you're trying to create a really pretty natural looking brow towards the end, like at the end of the whole thing, you're gonna wanna remove this part of the brows first. Okay, so let me show you how I remove it. Let me grab my... So I would usually use a Q-tip, so you can use the same one if you're pretty clean, you're not working with multiple Q-tips. So what I usually do is kind of take my Q-tip and remove and twist. So you see how the Q-tip is twisting on my glove? I'm twisting it so that the tint stays on the Q-tip as it rotates. So let me show you. So I'd start here and I'm twisting and away, twisting and away. And so that would be perfect. You would just let this process for a few minutes. You can always put more on. So if you're worried that it's gonna stain too dark, especially if you have dry skin, then you just remove that. Better remove it than wait until it's too dark, you know what I mean? It's easier to remove it while it's processing. We are skipping ahead to show you what this looks like on a real person. So this is in your training. This is in the Watch Me Work section. And you see that I have already removed the front of the brow, the tint, in order to give it a softer effect in the front. And at this point, I'm just removing the rest of the tint. So I would like for you guys to have a really nice line, just like I showed you in the beginning of your tints for your laminations. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and let me know. And you can email me or send it with your case studies, and that way I will know how to help. Okay, thank you guys so much.